All right, Steeler fans, welcome to the second half of the Friday episode. It's time for the All Betz Are Off segment with Jerome Betz. What's up, Jeremy? How's it going?
It's going well, Jeff. I'm excited to get back to some Steelers football this week.
That's right. And I gotta do this. I gotta plug the fact that Jeremy was kind enough to join me on my
Yeah.
golf podcast. For those that don't know this, I do a golf podcast called Fairways and the and symbol Dreams, Fairways and Dreams, and he joined me on my 2-man scramble. So if you haven't checked that out yet, go check out my Twitter feed or search Fairways and Dreams wherever. If you want to learn a little bit more about who Jerome Betz really is. And
Oh man, that's that gets deep and dark real quick.
dark, damn.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I know. I was gonna say. Anyways, I do appreciate you taking the time, and always on Fridays
Yeah, man.
to talk Steelers. Man, the last time we talked, we were gearing up for the trade deadline, and here the Steelers make two moves. They bring in Mike Williams. They bring in Preston Smith. Let's talk about them in sequential order, in the order that they happened. Mike Williams. Let me ask you this question: difference maker or just quality depth? How do you view it?
So I think when you're talking about the guy you're hoping to come in and be your wide receiver too, that if he's quality depth, that's not good enough. So I think that this is a guy that you want to be a playmaker. And I think he's still got it in him. He had the ACL tear, I think, in week 3 last year. So, and it didn't seem like it was a good fit in New
Right.
York with Aaron Rodgers. So I think he's got more left in the tank than we've seen out of him so far this year, whether that's situation or um, just getting better after the injury, getting more used to what he can do. You see some of the practice footage, he looks pretty quick, light on his feet. You see some of the plays he can still make downfield, and you start to think that maybe this is a guy who can continue to open things up for the other players on the offense, like George Pickens, maybe even Calvin Austin gets a little bit of a bump from the inside. I heard Robert Mays from the athletic the Athletic Football Show say something that made a lot of sense to me. Now that you've got a big body receiver like Williams to pair with George Pickens, you don't always have to have George Pickens play that X spot. You can put Mike Williams there and move Pickens around a little bit more, maybe get him in the slot a little bit more advantageous matchups. So that makes sense to me. I think as a contributor to the offense, it's going to be big plays down the field. It's going to be a big body on third downs, and it's going to be allowing other guys to move into better roles for themselves. Calvin Austin going to wide receiver 3, Van Jefferson going to wide receiver 4. That looks a lot better. And then you've got George Pickens, who maybe is a little more free to do what he does, and maybe a little bit more than what we've seen so far.
All right, a couple follow-ups here. Who sees their snaps decrease the most with Mike Williams being acquired?
I think it has to be Jefferson. I think just how dynamic Calvin Austin has been when he touches the football, it's hard to take him off the field, and he does a little bit of everything too. So, and the threat of him, his speed and his quickness is something I don't think that Mike Williams can replicate in any way. So you start to, they're just such different stylistically players that I think that fits a little bit better. Van Jefferson was kind of your other, was supposed to be kind of your other speed, big body guy for the outside. So I think that he's the one who sees the bigger snap decrease here.
All right, second question. How do you think the acquisition of Mike Williams might alter what Arthur Smith wants to do from an offensive philosophy standpoint?
Well, I don't know if it alters much. I think it enhances, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
So it's play action pass. And you heard him talk about it today that Mike Williams will be involved in the running game, that his size as a blocker, being able to chip defensive ends even and get in on the action at the line of scrimmage, that's going to play into it. So I think not necessarily that it changes anything, more or less it's, okay, now we can really go with what we want to do. We can really push the ball downfield to multiple guys. We can clear out the underneath for guys like Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin a little bit better now that we have two legit downfield, big-bodied contest catch guys. So again, enhancement, not necessarily change for Arthur Smith, in my opinion.
For me, I think that this really helps the offensive line in terms of their run blocking.
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
that what you're going to see, and this is something Coach KT Smith talked about on the Here We Go Steelers show, the trade deadline episode that he did with Brian Davis on Wednesday. So if you haven't heard that, go check it out. We didn't have Steel City Insider this week, so they did a special show about the two players that were acquired. He said, if you put George Pickens and Mike Williams out on the field together, safeties can't sneak down into the box. And if they do, Russell Wilson's going to see it, and he's going to throw it deep to whoever has single coverage. And you didn't have that with Van Jefferson. And so I think that this is going to cause a lot of too high shells. And that's a place that I think the Steelers offensive line and the running game can feast. And so I would love to see nothing more than for those two guys to be such a threat that this turns into, like, go back to the Jerome Bettis days in his prime when he used to just grind out games. I mean, it would just be so much fun to watch them impose their will.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they could do there.
Yeah, I agree. And I look back to it, personnel wise, depending on the formation, a lot of times when they have 12 personnel and it's just one receiver on the field, they've been going to other guys than George Pickens.
Right.
Maybe Mike Williams becomes a guy who can play that role, right? And so you have him as a blocker, but you also have him as a downfield threat and contest catch guy on the outside who can do a multitude of different things. It, again, just enhancing what they're doing well. I love what you said about the run game. That's how they're going to keep winning ball games, is establishing the run and then being able to push the ball down the field with play action after that. So any way you can assist that, I think it's a good fit. And I don't want to over hype it either, because Mike Williams isn't like necessarily a game-changing wide receiver, but I do think he puts players in the right spot as far as the depth chart goes, and I think he is more dynamic than what we've seen from the second, third guys that we've had to work with to this point.
Well, let's be honest. It's going to take one. It's going to take one deep throw that connects.
Yeah.
And it could be a freaking jump ball. And just a jump ball, it doesn't matter. If he brings that down, it changes everything. Now, all of a sudden, holy crap, now we got to worry about this guy. And this guy.
Or a PI.
And it doesn't matter. A big body, mossing someone, going up and getting over top of them. And so you think about the average defensive back, Joey Porter is like a freak compared to most DBs. Mike Williams is going to tower over those guys. So guess what? Russell Wilson throws the moon ball. You connect on a couple of those. Defensive coordinators are saying, oh, crap, now we got to worry about this too. So that's going to have to happen. I expect that to actually happen early in this game, unless for some strange reason Mike Tomlin holds Mike Williams out. I don't think they will. I think they're going to hey, Mike, can you run deep? Yes. Okay. Go do that.
Right. 3 routes and go. I mean, that's what he's best at anyway. So let's just run with it right now. So,
all right. So let's flip the script now and go to the defense. It was pretty interesting. I said this on Wednesday. I was not expecting the Steelers to make another trade. I thought they got the receiver. They're going to pack it in and let's get ready. And then to come to find out, when Preston Smith met with media on Wednesday, he requested a trade. He wanted out of Green Bay. And then I started to learn more about how Green Bay had switched from a 3-4 to a 4-3. He wasn't comfortable as a linebacker there. And they said, he's like, I want to go back to a 3-4. And they actually, they gave it to him. Like, this is weird to see these teams doing this with players when you think about Justin Fields in Pittsburgh and then this trade for a 7th round pick. How do you think he fits? He said he loves a 3-4 scheme. That's where he thrives. How do you see him fitting into the depth chart?
I think that he's basically a buffer to having to play both TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith 95% of the snaps every game. And that's going to be the biggest way he impacts this. You can take TJ Watt or Alex Highsmith off the field on 1st and 2nd down if you want to, for a drive a couple times a game, and let him. I mean, he's a great run defender. He can provide pass rush off the edge. Really, the scheme shift for him was detrimental, especially because they had guys that they had drafted and brought in to play that 4-3 style, and he was kind of left as the odd man out with what he preferred to play. So, and they have 4, 5, 6 guys that they like to rotate in and out. At pass rusher, he wasn't getting a lot of snaps. In Pittsburgh, he's different than Nick Herbig, right? Nick Herbig is speed, speed guy off the edge, and just his quickness, try to get in there. He's going to be more of your designated pass rusher. And Preston Smith now becomes your early down guy who can spell an Alex Highsmith or a TJ Watt on those downs. I think that's his role. I think he can do that very well. And you needed a fourth guy. You really did. You were an Alex Highsmith injury away again from having very little depth there.
Yeah.
He provides what Marcus Golden was going to provide, and maybe a little bit more from a run stopping angle, just with his size and quickness off the edge. This is a 280-pound defender who
big boy,
who plays in a stand-up role in a 3-4. It's crazy. He's kind of a unicorn in that regard.
And he can cover. I mean, I saw a highlight clip where he's running down the field with a running back, and he actually has 5 interceptions to his name in his career.
Yeah.
For a guy,
he can't cover Devontae Adams, but he can cover.
No.
But he can cover those running backs. He can get in the flat. Yeah.
TJ Watt's had interceptions, and you're like, well, TJ Watt's an athletic freak. When you see Preston Smith, you think he belongs on the defensive interior, but he's actually way more athletic than people think. And so I'm excited to see what he can do. I want to see how he goes about his business. Because when you think about what the Steelers provide, TJ Watt, he does have a repertoire, but he does have that one really good move. And it's so good that he just beats everyone with it. And Alex Highsmith has a little bit of a different repertoire. Every pass rusher has those moves that they go to. I want to see what he can do. Is he that guy? Marcus Golden was I'm going to physically move you straight into the quarterback.
Yes.
Is that his game? Is he a different style? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know, but I'm excited to see what he can do. And so I think that the Steelers improved their team on offense and defense, and Steeler fans should be really happy about that. And so let's talk about this upcoming week. But before we do that, I'm not going to lie. Everyone that pays attention should know I have to record this segment with Jeremy on Thursday afternoons because I have the Steelers preview. And no, we're not waking up on Friday morning at 3 a.m. and recording this show. So the Steelers are the only AFC North team to play on the weekend because Thursday night football is Bengals at Ravens and the Browns have a bye week. So going into the game on Thursday night, did you have a preference on who wins or loses?
Yeah, I really was hoping that the Baltimore Ravens would win when we're recording, right? So and here's why. We know the Ravens are in the mix. We know that they're there. They're going to be there the whole time, the whole season. They're that good. What we don't need to have is another team sneaking in here in the AFC North and putting their nose in the mix. And the Bengals scare me a little bit from that regard. I know the defense has struggled. I know the offense can be sporadic, but they still have star players, especially on offense, that can take over ball games. And I would much rather have them be closer to the eliminated side of things than even to have another game of leeway between us and the Ravens. We still get to play the Ravens twice. Obviously, we still get to play the Bengals twice too. But I'd much rather those Bengals games be less consequential than the Ravens games, and you really, it's just a 2-team battle instead of maybe a 3-team go at the end of the season.
Yeah, I put this out on Twitter and had a couple hundred votes, and vast majority of people were actually rooting for I think the Bengals to win.
Yeah,
and it was one of those situations where I was like, I could also make a case for the other happening. Yeah. So as I look now, hold on, let me bring it up quickly. Yeah, most people, 83% of the 200 plus votes were for the Bengals to beat the Ravens. And I was like, yeah, I could also see, and there were a lot of people that chimed in the comments that said what you said. Let's kill the Bengals as soon as we can. We'll worry about the Ravens because they're not going to go anywhere either. So that's interesting. But let's focus on the game that everyone cares about, and that's Steelers, Commanders. People, please understand this. They're like, oh, they're going to the nation's capital. No, they're not. They're not going to Washington, D.C. They're not even in freaking Maryland, all right? They are in Landover, Virginia. And so I don't live far from where they play, and I've been to when it was called FedEx Field and had been there before. And Brian Davis is going to be at the game on Sunday. And so it's not far from where we call home, and as I call it, Steel Curtain Network headquarters. But people are like, oh, they're going to be traveling to the nation's capital. Stop it. They're not in the nation's capital anymore. Okay, so it's a little soapbox rant there. But Steelers are getting 3 points. I still can't believe it. They're getting 3 points on the road If you want to bet money line, Steelers plus 124, Washington's minus 148, and an over-under at 45 points. So, Jeremy, how do you see this game playing out, and what's your score?
Yeah, this one's, I mean, just off the bat from a football lover watcher's perspective, right? This is an incredible game. Yeah. This really is a fun game. It is strength on strength across the board. The Washington Commanders offense is the most efficient offense in the league. They're the most efficient running team in the league. They don't turn the ball over. They have 3 turnovers in 9 games.
Yeah.
Their quarterback is the most efficient scrambler in the game. They have big play weapons on the outside. The offense is legit. No matter which way you slice it, you can't even go back and say, well, they haven't played anybody yet. They're dominating teams on that side of the ball. It's not close when the Commanders offense is on the field.
Right.
So easily now their toughest test against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The Steelers defense is 4th in takeaways. They're 2nd in scoring. They limit quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have the 5th lowest passer rating against this defense. The run defense is a top 10 unit in the league in efficiency metrics and in just standard stats, box score stats. So it really is a clash of titans when you're talking about Washington's offense on the field, Steelers defense on the field. To me, that is the neutralizing factor here, okay? Those two neutralize each other. And I'm not saying Washington's not going to make plays. I'm not saying the Steelers defense isn't going to make plays. That's going to play into this, obviously. But to me, the mismatch of this game is the Steelers offense, ironically, against the Washington Commanders defense. I think the Steelers offense has a chance to separate them in this game because they're playing well. They are playing efficiently. They're the 4th most efficient offense in football since Russell Wilson took over. 2-game sample size, I get it. But that's where the difference in this game can be. Washington's playing a little bit better on defense, but they can still get beat. And I know they traded for the cornerback, Marcus Lattimore. I don't feel like he's going to have a huge impact in this game. Defensively, scheme and communication matters more. So I think the Steelers have the horses, have the players, especially in the run game, to be really good against this Washington defense. Washington is giving up the 30th, or let me put it this way. They're 3rd worst in the league against the run on a per carry average, giving up 5.1 yards per carry. So it's time to rock and roll if you're the Steelers offense. And then I think the defense makes enough plays to get it done. This one's going to be higher scoring for a Steelers game. Again, I think we're going to see that. My final score prediction is the Steelers hit 30. They score 30 points and hold the Commanders to 23. It's a 7-point win for the Steelers. And while I think there will be some back and forth in this game, I think the Steelers do pull away in the second half a little bit.
Okay, good stats there. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take the Steelers. Shocker, taking the over, over, but not by much.
Yep.
I've got the final score:
okay.
Pittsburgh 26, Washington 23. I think the Steelers' red zone woes might continue for another week. They might get a little bit of help, but still, they got to figure some things out. I think they're going to move the ball on this Washington defense, but can they convert? That's the biggest question. Can they actually turn those red zone trips into touchdowns and not Chris Boswell field goals? If Chris Boswell has more extra points than field goals, it could blow the doors off this team. So we'll see. Yeah. This is a game that, for me, I'm excited to see the defense. I'm excited to see the Steelers go up against a top-tier offense, and let's see what they're made of. And let's see if what they've done is in the first half play a bunch of crap offenses, or are they ready for this test? So we shall see. All right, we both like the Steelers. I love it. Jeremy, any final thoughts, and what do you want to plug coming up?
Yeah, I'm excited for this week. You might have concerns about the Steelers looking ahead to Baltimore. I don't think that's going to happen, but you could have the same concerns for Washington. They've got the Eagles next week. So both teams really going to have to focus in, knuckle down, because next week it's division matchups to take leads in that division, basically no matter the outcome this week. So get a win, keep your record up. The Steelers have to be focused. I think they will be coming off the bye. I like the Steelers. It's going to be fun, but I like the Steelers. So check out the Q&A. If you missed it last night, had Big G on, and we had a good time talking Steelers. So check that out. And then if you missed the fix too, we talked about the impact of the additions, and then we predicted the rest of the Steelers schedule. So if you want to see our predictions before the game starts, go back and check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, as always, man, thank you very much. And we'll talk next week.
Have a good one, Jeff.